Shri Rupanu Brahmajurastaslam Sharanam Shri Guru Sharanam Mande Ramana Prestaya Bhutale Rupanu Vantam Sharanam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Raman Jai Rup Sanatan Bhaktarunna Shri Gopal Bhaktadasa Hare Krishna Hare Ram So first of all, I offer my Sharanga pranams and love speed for our spiritual masters. Jai Shrivan Bhaktivedanta Shri Goswami Maharaj. Jai Shrivan Bhaktivedanta Shri Goswami Maharaj. The entire Rupani Kalaya, all the Vaishnavas, Today is a very auspicious tithi. It's a disappearance day of all Srila Prabhupada's very intimate, beloved disciples. Srila Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj, beloved Siksha Guru of our Guru Maharaj. Gurudev mentions his name many times. In fact, there's an old recording, one of the earliest recordings of Gurudev, 1986. There he's speaking on Saranga Goswami Maharaj's Tiruvatithi. 1986, before that there's no recording of Glories before that. So you can see one of his earliest recordings is glorification of his Siksha Guru. There he's speaking many wonderful leelas, Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, how he met him there, and how Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj used to even come to this Mathura temple, because this railway station was right near the Mathura temple. And Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj disappeared in 1964, and this Keshavji Gaudiya Math opened in 1954. So 10 years it was there, this temple there. And also one devotee from Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj's temple, he was even telling me that this Keshavji Gaudiya Math, even Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj tried for this temple, he told me. In Mathura. Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj also tried, but then when he saw there were so many refugees from this partition, because India was partitioned into 3 countries, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So all the Sindhis, they came from Pakistan and they settled there in this Mathura temple. So then Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, he said, I cannot do this, he said, I cannot fight so many court cases against all of them. He said, this Keshav Maharaj can do, but not me, he said. Keshav Maharaj, he can go to the court and he can evict all these people, but for me this is nearly impossible, because all of them, they occupied all the different rooms that Keshav was given. So then we know that Param Gurudev, he got this temple. Then we know how Gurudev, he went to the court so many times, and then he arranged for accommodation for all these Sindhi refugees. And even recently, we heard one person who had a shop in the basement of this temple, he was also evicted recently. He was only giving 1 rupee a month, because that was the agreement since then. So only 1 rupee a month he was giving for his shop. Yeah. So they say, Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, he also established a temple there in Mathura also. Because these deities you see in Imritala, these Radha Gopinath deities, Gauranitai were already there actually before. In Imritala, if you see the 3 sections, Gauranitai, Radha Gopinath, and in the middle is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the small deity. So the small deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this deity was always taken on Parikrama. When Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur would go on this Brajmandal Parikrama, he would have the devotees carry this small deity of Mahaprabhu in palanquin. So then, anyhow they formed this deity. This deity was given to them, that Prabhupada himself used to serve. So that is the small deity of Mahaprabhu there in the middle. And in the left, the Gauranitai deities, which Sanatana Goswami used to worship in that place. Those deities are already present there. But the Radha Gopinath deities, you see, these deities were actually worshipped in Mathura before. Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, when instead of this Keshavji Gaudiya Math, he got this temple elsewhere. He got a place elsewhere in Mathura. There he had some of his disciples, this Pan Bihari Baba, Babaji Maharaj, some very old disciples of his. But then they stayed for some time there in Mathura, but then they said Rather than staying in Mathura, we'll stay in Vrindavan, he said. So then, like, they told Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, their Guru Maharaj, said, he would rather stay there in Vrindavan. So he said, all right. Then they got this place there in Vrindavan. So we see the preaching actually began there in Mathura actually. The Maharaj's preaching mission in Vrindavan. Now you see this beautiful temple there in Vrindavan. They have very nice pictures of Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna. It's Siddhapeeth there. Mahaprabhu used to come from Akrur Ghat and he used to sit there in that place. And you see even like Mahaprabhu, he met this Rajput Krishna Das in that place. And Krishna himself, in separation from Srimati Radhika, his complexion became golden. Radha Chintani Veshana Yasya Kanti Vilopita Shri Krishna Charanam Mande Radha Linkita Vikram. So this verse that Paramguru has written, this Radha Vinopyarita Prastakam, is actually based on that Leela there, in that place. And we know the Vaishnavas also, they used to say that they used to go serve in the Vitana temple, dressing Thakurji, cooking prasad. And there's also one disciple of Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, Pujavad Bhakti Kamal Parvat Maharaj. So the Vaishnavas used to say that he used to give so much Siksha. Also this Narsingha Kavach, we sing every day. I think he was the one who recommended that you sing this Narsingha Kavach every day. If you have any disturbances in your life, it will go away. So we sing that by His grace also. We shall be inspired. So it's a very beautiful temple there, this Imlitala temple, this Siddhapeeth. But still we see sometimes like there's a story, you know, that once there was one devotee in Kesharji Gaudiya Math, Mathura. So he used to visit Imlitala. And then he said, oh, I want to stay in Imlitala there because it's Siddhapeeth, I'll just stay there. So then he left this Mathura temple and he started staying there in Imlitala. And they said, actually every place in Braj is actually Siddhapeeth. Actually the whole of Brajtam itself is a Siddhapeeth. But he was like very adamant. He was like, no, I'll just stay there. So like he had this mood. Then ultimately, eventually also like he developed some illness and he even like left his body also. So like sometimes you see, you know, even when you're visiting the Siddhapeeths, you must do so actually under guidance. The Rashtra, under that thing. Because ultimately we see like this opportunity to stay in Vrindavan has been given by who? Given by the Vaishnavas. Very mercifully they have given this opportunity. You know, like Ranganath Maharaj and me also, we were having this discussion some days before. Like he visits many temples, he goes everywhere, Sanatana Goswami Samadhi, I go, I meet him sometimes. And we were discussing and we were just saying like who has given us this opportunity to stay here actually? Who is the root? That should be considered, Because you see, if you look at the old school Gaudiya Maths, it's very, very difficult. They don't give you so much independence. If it was the old school Gaudiya Math, maybe I wouldn't have lasted more than even 3-4 days. But then anyhow, the Vaishnavas are very mercifully given this opportunity. That despite all your anarthas, shortcomings, you stay here in Vrindavan now. So we were just discussing Maharaj and me, like how mercifully this opportunity has been given to us. Else where would we be? We would be anywhere. So this way, Imlitala is also there, this temple that Maharaj opened. And he also has a very nice temple in Mayapur, this Ishodhyan in Nandanacharya Bhavan, where Mahaprabhu met Nityananda Prabhu. And he has a very nice temple. His Samadhi is there also, his Bhajan. Gurudev would go there always. And with the Parikrama party, Devananda Gaudiya Math would go there also. Because Param Gurudev, he had a very good relationship. Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. In fact, Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he gave this title to Param Gurudev, Pashanda Gajaika Simha. When Param Gurudev received this dream that he was going to get sannyas, Prabhupada told him 3 times actually. Because during Prabhupada's time, he wanted to give sannyas to Param Gurudev, but like Kunj Vihari Prabhu, then Bhagavad Ratna Prabhu, some disciples said, who will look after Mayapur Math? Who will look after? So then, therefore, Prabhupada, he said, all right. And then Prabhupada, he told Param Gurudev, now what is happening to my mission? When will you start this parikrama again, Navadip Dham? Start the publication of all these magazines and push this mission forward. So then, Prabhupada, he gave sannyas to Param Gurudev in that dream. And he gave that name, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav. And then he told Bhakti Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, who was by the side, that you now loudly say Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. And he loudly said. And then Param Gurudev, he spoke about that dream next day to Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj. And he also confirmed it. Yes, I also had that dream simultaneously. Then he took sannyas from Srila Goswami Maharaj, and Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj was also there. So he gave this title, Pashanda Gajaika Simha. That he is the lion that defeats these elephants of hypocrisy, heresy. In this way. So Bhakti Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, he had so much love for his god brothers. If you see Swami Maharaj and Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he received this title Bhakti Vedanta from his god brothers. He also had this title called Bhakti Siddhanta. Bhakti Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, he gave Swami Maharaj this title Bhakti Siddhanta Abhay Charanaravindra Prabhu. And if you see in some letters, Swami Maharaj, and also in some in some articles he's written, he assigned Bhakti Siddhanta Abhay Charanaravindra Prabhu. Because the son, he inherits the title of the father. So Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj said, you're such an ideal son of our Prabhupada, so you must inherit this title also, Bhakti Siddhanta. And you can see some of these signatures also, he signed Bhakti Siddhanta Abhay Charanaravindra. So then some god brothers, they were saying that, oh, actually Bhakti Siddhanta is reserved for our Guru Maharaj, so it would be nice if he'd have some other title. So then Swami Maharaj, he started using this title Bhakti Vedanta and Bhakti Siddhanta. So this way, Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj also a very intimate relationship with Srila Goswami Maharaj. It is said that he was doing this Navadip Dham Parikrama with Srila Goswami Maharaj, along with Jajavar Maharaj, Madhusudan Maharaj, and some other god brothers. So then gradually the Parikrama party became so big that Srila Maharaj, he requested Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj that maybe we should do separate parikramas, because it's becoming so big, there's not so much accommodation for all the devotees, prasad, very difficult. So then Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj, he said all right. And then when he started his own parikrama, he said at least one of my disciples should be there with Srila Maharaj's parikrama party. At least one of my disciples, because he had initiated more than 40 sannyasis. So then he had one sannyas disciple, Sripad Bhakti Kiran Giri Maharaj. So he sent him there to Srila Maharaj's temple. He said, you go there and you always be there. This is your service there. So he, until the day he disappeared, every year for this parikrama, he'd be there in Srila Maharaj's parikrama party there. He offered this disciple to Chaitanya Saraswati Mount. So this way, also whenever he would celebrate his Vyas Puja, then he'd invite all his god brothers and he'd respect them so nicely. Srila Maharaj would also come. Because many of his god brothers would be preaching here and there, like our Param Gurudev, and so many, Tirth Maharaj, Madhav Maharaj, they'd be going all around India. But Srila Maharaj, we know that he used to stay there in Navadip Dham. So he would always be there for Sanyasi Goswami Maharaj Vyas Puja. And whatever pranami he would receive, whatever, everything he can, he just offer it to Srila Maharaj. He'd say, kindly accept this. So they'll have many sweet dealings between each other. So, and then just before he disappeared, 1964, when he became sick, he couldn't even walk properly. Because from the ghat to Nandanacharya Bhavan, you have to walk a little time. For those of us who have been there, maybe 1 kilometer from the ghat. So that time, some of his disciples, they told him, Maharaj will take you on a rickshaw. He said, never. He said, I'm in the dham, I'd rather walk on my 2 feet. Never go on the rickshaw. I said, Maharaj, you cannot, you're so sick now, how will you possibly? He said, no, anyhow I'll walk. So then he got hold of 2 of his disciples and he walked all the way from the ghat to his temple in Nandanacharya Bhavan. That was his nishtha in the dham. So Maharaj, we know that he was stationed there in Dhanbad when Prabhupada met him. He's actually a householder. And Prabhupada himself has glorified him so much. In one of his letters, Prabhupada wrote in 1929, he has said, who doesn't know of Aprakrit Bhaktisam Prabhu's glories? Beginning from Kashmir in the north to Kanyakumari in the south, everyone knows of his glories. He's like a jewel in this Nityananda Prabhu's line, because he was actually a descendant there, this Nityananda bunch. He said, despite being a householder, he has offered everything to me. Prabhupada, even his householder disciples were so sincere and so dedicated. He even named one of his household disciples Yatiraj, king of all sannyasis. Although he was a householder. Once Prabhupada, he was in Darjeeling. And then Prabhupada, he wanted to open a center there. But many of his disciples, they didn't want to stay there. It was very cold. and they are not used to the cold, they were used more to the heat and the cold. So then Prabhupada was saying that, like, who's going to look after the temple here? So then he told one of his secretaries that tomorrow morning, the first person I'll see, he'll be in charge of the temple here, he said. So then, anyhow, this word, this secret, was known to others. So the next day in the morning, no one came to see Prabhupada. They were so scared. Even the devotee who was supposed to give these these cards, these mails to Prabhupada, he also didn't come. Because he was scared that Prabhupada might tell him. But then Prabhupada, he had one householder disciple there. He had like family, he had a wife, he had children, everyone. So then he found out. And then he came, he fell at the feet of Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, whatever your desire is also my desire. If you want me to stay here, I'll stay here. So then Prabhupada, he made him look after the temple in Darjeeling. He stayed there for so many years, looking after the temple. And so even Sanyasi was saying, Maharaj, he was, by his life, by his body, mind, words, he had completely dedicated himself to Prabhupada's mission. And he's going preaching everywhere, like opening centers. And he used to face so many disturbances also in his preaching. Like there's this very famous story that once he was showing the Bhagavatam to someone, and one person, he said, why have you included the pictures of all these human beings in the Bhagavatam? Because Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Why have you included the pictures of your spiritual master, everyone? So then he explained the meaning of this verse, Sakshat Daritva, Samasta Shastra. That all the qualities of Sri Hari are present in the Hari Bhakta as well. So in one way, Hari is Vishaya Vigraha and the Bhakta is Ashraya Vigraha. He's Ashraya Bhagavan. And you know who I am? I am a descendant of Nityananda Prabhu himself. So I am no less than any of you. But still my head is sold at the feet of Prabhupada. And he made that person realize the glories of Prabhupada. Like once Prabhupada was preaching in Kanpur, and one district magistrate, he started telling Prabhupada, why are you taking all these young men of society, turning them into street beggars, giving them saffron, Sanyasi? It was very rude. Prabhupada, then he didn't say anything. So then when Sanyasi Maharaj found out that this person had spoken like this, then he went looking for him everywhere, all around the city, and he found him. And he said, because of your offense, at the lotus feet of such a pure devotee, 14 generations of your family will go to hell, he said. So then that person was very scared then, because Sadhu was speaking. And Sadhu, you see, his words have so much potency. So he knew he was speaking the truth. And immediately he came and he fell at the feet of Prabhupada and he begged for forgiveness. And he said, kindly forgive me. And we see there's another famous story also. When Prabhupada came, this Parikrama party to Vrindavan, all the Goshais, they refused to open their temples. But then Sanyasi Maharaj, along with other god brothers who were born in Brahmin families, they spoke some sense into these Goshais. And then the temple doors were opened for everyone. And this way his preaching was so dynamic. Prabhupada used to say, for one of his preachers, like Madhav Maharaj, Hayagriva Brahmachari, he has volcanic energy. And this way, Sanyasi Maharaj is also going everywhere, so much volcanic energy, preaching. And it is said that once he was there in Naimisharanya, and there they promised to give some land to Sanyasi Maharaj, to the temple there. But then they went back on that promise. One person, he said, why should we give the land to all of you? Rather we'll give this land to the local authorities here and then make a nice business here or something. So then Sanyasi Maharaj, then he came there and he said, how can you do this? Now I'll file a defamation case against you. Once you've given the land and you've already taken the land back. So then he was so forceful in his preaching that they were forced to give the land. And he said, and he pretended to be a lawyer, and he said, because you have made me undergo so much trouble, you'll also have to give a fine. And this way he also made them pay for the construction of the temple there in this Naimisharanya, this Gaudiya Math there. And if you see, the Bhagavad was actually published from this Naimisharanya temple. The Bhagavad was the Gaudiya magazine printed in Hindi. And it was published from there, Naimisharanya. Sanyasi Maharaj, he was called this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampadak Sabhapati. He was the chief editor of this Gaudiya. And also, Prabhupada, he started this Paravidya Peeth, this Center of Spiritual Education. And he was also like the chairman of that Paravidya Peeth there. And in this way, his preaching went on in all corners of the world, in all corners of India. And Prabhupada, he decided to send him to the West with this title, Missionary in Charge. So Vaishnava has spoken this story that Prabhupada, he actually told one of his disciples that he cook some rice and sabji for him. Then they said it's actually Ekadashi. How can he eat sabji? Then Prabhupada said he'll go there, every day is Ekadashi for him. What will he eat there? And you are saying it's Ekadashi for him? No. But then anyhow, Maharaj, Aprakrit Bhakti Sarang Prabhu, he fell at the feet of Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada kindly, like, anyhow I'll follow Ekadashi and I'll arrange something for myself. So he went there and he faced so many hardships. He had no money, nothing. He even wrote to this king of Bihar to send some money, but there was no reply. And it was so cold, nothing, no accommodation, nothing. But in spite of that, he used to speak in so many places, like in this Buckingham Palace, in this World Congress of Faiths, and all these different places. And then once, he actually received this money order from this king of Bihar, of a Prabhupada, like 100 pounds or something. So then, he went there to cash this envelope in, this check, but he didn't have any proof. Then, he saw one picture of him sitting next to this Lord Zetland. And then, that was the proof. Then he received that money and he started preaching so much. In fact, he preached for 10 months even after Prabhupada's disappearance. Prabhupada disappeared in January 1st, 1937. And he was there until October 1937 because he had to make this movement go. And because of his preaching, there was one lady there, a very pious lady in England. Her name was Vinodvani Devi Dasi. So she even gave her house to the Gaudiya mission, saying you can start a temple. And to this day, the temple is still there, called Vasudev Gaudiya Math, under Parvazar. Even to this day, the temple still has brahmacharis, and Prabhupada's glories are still being sung to this day, right, because of his preaching there. And then because of how he started preaching there in that place. And this way, like there's that Leela also of the deity that he found, Lok Vishnu. So, and then he performed, he came back in 1937, was feeling so much separation from his Guru Maharaj. And then continued in India everywhere. We see there's one picture of him standing with Param Gurudev. Saranga Goswami Maharaj, Param Gurudev and Prabhupada, three of them are there. And there's this person also, this Englishman, I don't know his name. He was the Viceroy General at that time. So when he came, Prabhupada, he made all arrangements for him to be seated like, comfortably. Because Prabhupada was thinking that anyhow this person, by his presence here, many people will be attracted to the movement. So he was even ready for that person to be given like certain food which is not even like, which is actually prohibited. He was even ready to offer that because they wanted to engage these persons anyhow. Like Srila Maharaj, he was saying that once Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he arranged for some Brahmin pujaris in Yogpit. So then these Brahmin pujaris, once they were found smoking ganja, and they went and complained to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, saying these pujaris, you see how they are actually smoking ganja here. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, anyhow, they have taken shelter of Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. They will be purified. And then gradually, they were purified so much in their practices. They said Prabhupada also, these people had so many like bad habits, and anyhow he engaged them in the service of Mahaprabhu. So in that picture you see, that's Param Gurudev, Saranga Goswami Maharaj and Prabhupada. And there, if you see, everyone has a garland except Saranga Goswami Maharaj. He doesn't have a garland. Why? Because his garland he had given to that person, that Viceroy General who had come. He gave him that garland, and then he is there. All of them are there by the side. It's a very famous picture there. Then you can see a sign also behind. It says, God bless the Viceroy. Yeah. And also you can see one more picture of Gurudev with Saranga Goswami Maharaj. Gurudev is standing and he's speaking Harikatha at the opening of this Indraprastha Gaudiya Math. And Saranga Goswami Maharaj, Sai Maharaj, Bhakti Saurabh, Bhakti Sar Maharaj, they're all sitting behind. Sheshai Prabhu and the Shauti Maharaj, his disciple, they're all there sitting. Shauti Maharaj, he has a very nice temple right there next to Pawan Sarovar. And when he opened this temple, Gurudev, he brought all the devotees from Mathura. He didn't take one single rupee from him for the bus from Mathura. He said, I'll do everything myself. And he brought all the devotees there from Mathura. And then he did everything for that temple. Because he said, you are my god brother. You are not any less from like any of the other god brothers of mine. So he made sure everything went on very nicely. Gurudev was there, Trikram Maharaj was there. And the same thing, Gurudev, when he went to Indraprastha Gaudiya Math also for the opening, he took charge of everything. Like he arrived 10 days before the festival, cooking, cleaning, decorating the temple, everything he took charge. And then this festival is organized. So beloved Siksha Guru Srila Gurudev. Today is Tirobhav Tithi. Tirobhav means, you have this distance, disappearance day, means distance to appear, means they're appearing from distance and they're giving us this strength, this speciality, this Vaisishtya of their Guru Nishta. So, Vanchāra Bhutaro Vishya Kripāsana.
Gurave Gaurachandaya Radhikaye Tadave Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Varam Shri Rupanuga Pravaram Rajarasarasivam Charayanam Tam Shri Guru Charanam Vande Ramana Prasthaya Bhutale Rupanuga Bhaktidam Cha Kripamurti Narayanam Manchakalpadrubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patidanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my sister Nandvat pranams thousands of times, Glories to Shri Paramaraditam Guru Pada Padma. Vishnu Pada Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev. Secondly, I offer my sister Nandvat pranams thousands of times, Glories to my Shri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga. I offer my sister Nandvat pranams unto all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. By causeless mercy of Shri Guru Pada Padma, the Vaishnavas, we are here in Shri Vrindavan Dham observing our Shri Keshav Vrat, Chandan Yatra. And today is the most auspicious Tirobhav Tithi, the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he is Antaranga Parshad of Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. We just heard so many glories of him. And Prabhupada, we know, he had so much faith in him that he made him the chief editor of the Gaudiya. Gaudiya was the flagship magazine of Prabhupada. Every week they would release in Bengali. And Prabhupada himself would pen directly articles for that. And Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he was the chief editor, main editor for that magazine. And we've heard from the Vaishnavas also how he came to Jagat Guru Prabhupada. It was during this time of the year, this Jyesht Maas, Vaishak Jyesht Maas, very, very hot. And that time, Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he was working as, he was like chief engineer or like prominent position in the railway. And he has heard about the glories of Prabhupada in Mayapur. So along with one of his colleagues, he decided that they would go visit Mayapur. And at that time there was no railway train coming to Mayapur, Navadvip, anything. The nearest stop was Krishnanagar. So they came all the way to Krishnanagar. From Krishnanagar to Mayapur, the walk is at least like 10-20 miles. So in the hot summer day, they were walking, and they arrived in Mayapur at late time, like 3-4 in the afternoon. That time, some Vaishnavas were taking rest, or in their bhajan kitty doing their bhajan. And Thakurji also, that time the doors are closed. And they arrived. That time Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, he was that time busy maintaining and taking care of the temple, chanting his Harinam and always contemplating, thinking how serving Srila Prabhupada. That time he saw these two guests, they arrived there in Sri Mayapur. You could see their lips were dry, they had sweat on their head, their faces were red, and he understood, oh, they have come a long distance and they are experiencing so much heat. So then immediately he said, oh, he welcomed them. He said, we have Radhakund, Shamakund here, please take bath in Radhakund and I will arrange for your prasad. So they both went to take bath in Radhakund, and meanwhile then Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, he went to the kitchen. So Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, he was never engaging so much in cooking activities because they had separate cooks and everything. Vinod Bihari's main service was managing and doing so many other things. But still, very expertly he started the fire and he put hot water. Inside that water, he put rice, and separately he took dal and he put inside a cloth. And inside that cloth he put inside. And he took some vegetables and some potato also he put inside that water. And by the time the rice had cooked, everything had boiled, the dal had boiled, the rice had been cooked, the sabjis were cooked. And then he took the rice, put separate, then he took some hot water and he made the dal, chopped the dal. Then potato, some of the potato he smashed up, made aloo chokha, smashed potato. Then some of the potato and sabji, then he cooked one into dry sabji, one into wet sabji, rasa sabji. Then he took some imli, tamarind, he made chutney. He took drinking water and lemon, and he made also lemon drink, everything. He offered ginger, lemon, chili, everything he made. And by the time they came back, they saw there were so many items, so many beautiful preparations. And they sat down and they honored this prasad. It's cooking by Vinod Bihari Brahmachari. Vinod Bihari Brahmachari is who? He is Vinod Manjari, eternal maidservant of Srimati Radhika. He's always giving Vinod, pleasure to the divine couple. So he's expert in everything. He has this Sarup Anubandhi Prem, this Sarup Siddha Bhakti, this natural Sabhavik Prem, natural devotion. So all these talents and all these skills, they come naturally to him. Even though he never before cooking, but then he cooked this great, beautiful feast. And when Sharanga Goswami Maharaj and the other Vaishnava, his name was Adul Krishna, Bandokadhyay, they took this prasad, they became very, very happy. And then, after taking prasad, and very shortly, then Prabhupada, he came out of his bhajan kutir, and then they both met with him. Later, and then they directly, hearing Prabhupada's Harikatha, they both surrendered their lives to Prabhupada at that moment. This Adul Krishna, he later became, even though he never renounced his household, but he became a staunch follower of Prabhupada, and he is the one who is responsible for compiling the Gauriya Kantahar. All brahmacharis, when we come to the mat, then we study Gauriya Kantahar and Bhagavad Gita. All these verses, this compilation is Gauriya Kantahar. Gurudev also published this in Hindi. And then, after Sharanga Goswami, he went back to his work for some time. And he began sending 1 rupee worth of donation that time, every month to Prabhupada. Or 5 rupees, I think, maybe 5 rupees. That time, you can understand that those 5 rupees worth today like 50 lakhs. So much money, 5 lakhs. It's like, you cannot imagine how much it was. And by that money, they would maintain all the temple, everything. There was no shortage in the temple. But after some time, then Sharanga Goswami, he did not find any happiness there in the house. He desired to renounce, and he informed Prabhupada he was coming. That time the Vaishnavas, they were all worried. Oh, but if you leave your work, then who will give this 5 rupees every month? He said, what to speak of 5 rupees, I will give much more than that. And really we can see, after he came, then he became the principal collector for Prabhupada. Even though he had so many responsibilities like editing the Gaudiya, and as we heard, he was the chairman of these different transcendental groups and these associations that Prabhupada established. Still, he would go on this collection. And the Vaishnava described that how he was so ingenious about it, that he would not just collect a little 1 bag, 2 bags of rice, he would bring a whole truck. His famous katha, we know how he went to Calcutta, to the big rice market there. They're selling all grains, everything there. And he had one acquaintance with one tax collector. So he preached some Harikatha to him and he said, I need one small favor. Please send me let me use your car and your driver for today. So the tax collector, the government, they have been issued a driver and car by the government. On the car is written, Government of Bengal, tax collector, everything's meant, all signed, they have a flag and sign, everything's on the car. So he sat in the car and told the driver, take me to this Anaj Mandi, take me to this market, wholesale market of all these grains. When he arrived there, then all the shopkeepers, they saw, oh, tax collector has come. So then they became restless. Why? Because some business is in the books, but a lot of the business is going under the table. And there's not mentioned in the books. The tax collector makes the inspection, and the accounting they're doing usually in the end of the year. So they're all worried, oh, tax collectors come. Then when they saw Sharanga Goswami coming out, then they felt some relief. Oh, who is this? What's happening? He said, oh, we have Prabhupada is in Bengal. We are feeding so many yatris. Navadip Parikrama is coming. The sadhus are doing bhajan there. We are developing Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Now you all have to contribute. So immediately the maliks, the heads of those shops, then they immediately order, oh, put 1 bag rice, 1 bag dal, 1 bag sugar, 5 can oil. Each shop they gave like this. Then within a short time the whole truck was full. Hundreds of bags of rice, dal, sugar, ghee, oil, masala, spice, everything. And that truck then he sent back to Navadip, Mayapur. Then when they saw this, they became astonished. How he is transcendent Aprakita. That's why Prabhupada gave him this title, Aprakita. Aprakita vastu nahe prakrita gochar. You cannot understand Vaishnava by your mundane intelligent vision. They actually have all qualities. They have this pure eternal seva vritti. And everything they do is a manifestation of this prem, this love that is in their heart. Vaishnava also explained this katha how there was one rich industrialist, and just like Narad Rishi, when he saw Maharaj Suvarna in Suvarna Vihar, he preached to him. He said, why are you wasting your time engaging in materialistic activities? Please do Hari Bhajan. And then he converted that king into a Vaishnava. Same mood, Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he came there, he saw this materialist day and night, he is not only wasting his life. So he felt compassion. I'll speak some Hari Katha to him, engage him in Hari Bhakti, Hari Bhajan, Hari Seva. He came there, the gate guard said, what business do you have? Said, I wish to speak to the owner. He went back and the owner told the owner, there's one sadhu who wants to speak with you. Then the sadhu said, oh, he'll come for some donation. So I said, give him some little money, give him this donation. Came back, then Sharanga said, no, I don't want this money, I want to speak to him. Then he came back again, and then injustice thought, oh, maybe he's greedy, sadhu, maybe he wants something more. So he increased the donation. Then he came back, and then Sharanga said, no, I don't want any money, I have only one purpose, I've come here to speak with him. So when the guard returned back to the owner became angry. He said, no, I don't have time for this nonsense. Then he ignored Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. Sharanga Goswami waited there for some time, but then he left. Then next year when Sharanga Goswami was in that same area preaching, he came to the area, saw that the factory that he was not there. It had been sold. And then he was wondering, oh, where has that person gone? Then he saw on the beggar, there was one person sitting on the street begging there. And he looked carefully and he saw that this beggar is that same person, that same industrialist who was working in that factory there before. He said, oh, what happened to you? He said that. Then that beggar said, oh, you are that sadhu who came to me, but I neglected you. You came trying to give me your mercy, trying to give me some kind words, some engage me in service, but I neglected. I didn't have no time to listen to you. And this is why I neglected your lotus feet. And now look at me. Now what have I become? I have become a beggar. I have nothing now. I have lost everything. But then Sharanga Goswami said, but you still have your heart, you still have your soul. Now will you do bhajan? Now will you offer something at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada? So then that beggar said, yes, now I will listen. And then he spoke Hari Katha to him. He gave him some inspiration. Chant holy name. And this is why he gave him his eternal benefit. So you can see his preaching and his collection, everything was very, very unique, very, very special. And in Param Gurudeva's biography, they mentioned so many places. we heard he gave Param Gurudev this title, Prashanda Gajai Singh. And there are also some other mentions are there, and his photograph is there. We heard everything is described. And just recently, then, during Gurudev's time, then his mud there in Nimlitala, they renovated that mud, everything, next to Gopinath Bhavan. And today you will have darshan there. We've got Nitai, the original tree, everything. Nanda, in Nandagaon, you see his mud is there. There's a tree, he used to sit underneath that tree and do his bhajan there, directly. Just next, opposite Pavan Sarovar. So, Aprakrit Sharanga Goswami Guru Maharaj, his bhajan, his Baitak is also there in Nimlitala. When you enter on the left hand side, his Baitak is there, his sitting place. And his part of his foot symbols are there, you can take his foot dust. So all these associates of Bhakti, Jagat Guru Prabhupada, they are transcendental. They are great staunch leaders, generals in the army of Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada gave him the title Maha-Mahopadeshak. Some used to give the title Upadeshak, some Maha-Upadeshak, but to a few rare he gave the title Maha-Mahopadeshak. He was so learned, so realized. Prabhupada had utmost confidence in him. And as we heard, he went to the West also and we started the preaching there in England. And this way, fulfilling Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada's Manovishta. So, today is his Tiro Bhakti. We are praying to Lord to see the Guru Pada Padma, that he, because of his mercy, that one drop of his qualities, his Guru Nishta, his Bhakti may enter into his heart, so we may also remain loyal and one pointed in the service of Srila Gurudev, one Sharanga.
Gurchandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadvaktaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghuna Sri Gosai Kari Charan Vandan Jnani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram. So today is one of the senior most Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada disciple Sharanga Goswami Maharaj Srila Bhakti Raha Mohotsav Vishishta Rupena Raha Mohotsav. His name, he is from Bakuda in Bangladesh, where he is born, where Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj is also born. Both are from Bakuda. He is a very great Brahmin family he is from. The astonishing things I heard about him is he is very punctual in his all doing sevas. Once what happened, he was appointed in British time as a trained police custom officer, like a engineer type only, but he is an officer, custom officer. So once he came to station and he saw that the train has already left 5 minutes before. Just then he went to the office and he told that I will complain about you. The train can come 5 minutes before on station or 10 minutes before also, but train cannot leave 5 minutes before. but the spiritual, it can be happen. In Hasaraghatta, there is one Hanumanji in Bengaluru. The British people, they wanted to make a train line. So the train was, the train, what they made route, they saw there is a big monkey standing and the train cannot go. So then they have to make divertation so that the train can go, train is going like this. So similarly, this I heard from one of the Bhakti Madhav Goswami Maharaj disciples talk about Sharanga Goswami's appearance day, where in Imlita, I heard from him that story, train story. So that the Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, his commander is still there. If you can see how big he is there. He is very tall, and anywhere he goes, even Brajavasi Pandas, they used to very submissively, because he is from also Brahmin family, he knows all Shastra, Shlokas, verses, or anywhere, he used to speak very simple way and nice way. So here, the thing is that he has a Brahma Tej also. He is very really effulgent. And that time they said that Imlitala was just means nothing was there when he came. Or Bande Goswami Maharaj came that time, that Madan temple, nothing was there. Madan Mohan temple was there, but other things were not there, nothing. Forest was there. So the Aprakrit Brahmachari, he used to collect from all over India, because he has a fluent English speaking, English also he knows so many languages. And once they told that Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he met Bhakti Baldev Goswami Maharaj, and they both were talking something about Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada. And Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada suddenly came there, and he told Aprakrit, what you are doing here? And then Sharanga Goswami Maharaj just gave obeisances. Then Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada told, you must go to Vrindavan in Keshav Gaudiya Math, what Giri Maharaj was speaking. And then Sharanga Goswami Maharaj came in this Keshav Gaudiya Math. But Sharanga Goswami Maharaj in Imlitala, every day he will go to Yamuna, bring water, and he will pour that tree and sit below there, and 3 lakh without all finishing his rounds, he will never take lunch also. He used to sit there, and every day he used to chant before that tree and tulsi. So many things I heard about Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. That mostly later that one is developed by one of the disciples, Akhil Goswami Maharaj. But Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, one of the Prabhupada Swami Maharaj disciple, he told that he saw Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. He is Nandan Prabhu, something his name. And he was talking about some shloka. And that shloka, it is mentioned that Siddhanta, something like that, how he is very dear to Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada. That shloka is, in Sanskrit, it is complete verse is there. So that plate is there. So he was today only, he spoke that all verses, but I cannot remember. About how he is empowered by Prabhupada, blessed by Prabhupada, and he was intimate also for Prabhupada. So that shloka is there in Sanskrit, but he was today reading in afternoon time today, but I cannot remember. But some other way I know that all Prabhupada Granth are all means not from this lok, they are from Goloka Vrindavan, and they came only to mission of Mahaprabhu to develop and pre and assist Prabhupada. That way today Vishishta Rupena Raha, why I told? Because the devotees, we should not think that devotee dies. A devotee never died. Devotee, rather than they leave this body and they go eternal service, and one way in Vigraha room or Samadhi room, they stay in this world and give darshan, and special Vyas puja they accept from all Baddha Jiva. In that way, today is Vyas puja, Vishishta Rupena Raha means he is here in with Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada and our Param Gurudev Keshav Goswami Maharaj, because he has given that title Gajeka Singh. This is what I give to Vak Pushpan. Vancha Kalpatra Veshta Kripa Sindhu Kiro.
Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumara Saurabha Abhinava Mala Gocha Samojala Conchita Talaba Pranayi Janarita Chandana Sahakrita Pranayi Janarita Chandana Sahakrita Chornita Varadhanasa Jaya Jaya Chatula Drigantala Rachitara Sachala Radha Madana Vika Bhuvana Vimahana Manjula Nartana Gati Valgita Maniha Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Adhara Virajita Mandatara Smita Lochita Nija Pariva Nija Vallava Jana Sore Sanatana Nija Vallava Jana Sore Sanatana Chitta Vihara Davata Jaya Jaya Sundara Nanda Kumar Surabhasankata Vrindavana Data Surabhasankata Vrindavana Data Vedavasanta Vihara Jaya Jaya Sundarananda Kumar Jaya Jaya Sundarananda Kumar Jayananda Kumar Jayananda Kumar Nanda Kumar Jayananda Kumar Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Bhakta Bhanda Srila Guru Deva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Swaparshada Srila Prabhupada. Jai Satchidanand, Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Satchidanand, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Radha Pinate Hari, Radha Pinate Hari, Radha. Jaya Radha Pinate Hari, Radha Pinate Hari, Radha. Nita Gaur Hari Bar, Hari Bar, Hari Bar, Nita Gaur Hari Bar. Nita Gaur Hari Bar, Hari Bar, Hari Bar, Nita Gaur Hari Bar. Hari Ram.